And in addition, we also have our host for tonight, Councilman Dan Suckley, District 4.
Well, thanks, Dr. Young. Actually, our host tonight is Seashore. So there are hosts here providing the facility, and we appreciate that. As always, they've stepped up to the plate for the city and the community to host these, so we appreciate that. Our city manager also, for those of you that don't know, Peter Zanoni just came in, so welcome, Peter. And lots of staff, and we appreciate the staff being here as well tonight. So we had this similar meeting for District 4 approximately 3 or 4 weeks ago. We probably had maybe 8 or 10, 12 community members there. Alex was there. Dale was there. And that was really our only folks from the island. So Peter and I talked about it after the meeting, and Peter was open to the idea of trying to do it again on the island. So here we are. So we're glad that y'all came out to join us this evening. In essence of the time we have tonight, let's go ahead and get started, and we'll run through the PDF. Please take it upon yourself to ask questions as they arise. We won't wait till the end. Just please let us know if you have a question throughout. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Councilman Suckley. Sir, would you like to say a few words? Okay, awesome. All right, so please do understand that I do have to give you all an abbreviated version of the presentation simply because we have two very heavy policy issues to discuss tonight. However, if you do go to the city's website at cctexas.com/bond 2024, there's a very detailed presentation on the website to include a description of all the projects, not just District 4 or Island, and it'll help you be better informed as we get towards the ballot in November. So, next slide. Next slide. Oh. All right. No, I got it. Okay, so Bond 2024. In its current form, what the city is looking for is approximately a $175 million program. And that may cause a little sticker shock to some. So what we did was decide that, hey, let's do a comparable to the previous bond, which was in 2022. And what you'll note is Bond 2024 is a program at $175 million, but it's only $50 million more than the program that was largely approved by the voters in 2022. Now, we know that $50 million, it is a lot of money. But the reality is, if you dig a little bit deeper into, the comparables, what you'll note is that $50 million really represents investment in our parks, but more importantly, a significant investment in our public safety infrastructure, which we'll go into more detail later on in this presentation. So for Bond 2024, what we're looking at is 22 street projects, 11 parks projects, 7 public safety projects, and 2 facility projects. Now, when we have had these presentations, as the councilman has stated before, we've basically been going around the entire community having town halls in the different council districts, but more importantly, also having meetings with what we call stakeholder groups across the city. That includes ISAC, the Flower Bluff Citizens Council, the North Beach Communities Association, and all that nature. We've been meeting with all these different groups with the intent on ensuring that the plan that does make it to the ballot in November is not the city's plan. Rather, it's a community plan that's been honed and polished with feedback from individuals like you and from our stakeholder groups across the community. So after making all these different engagements, I believe that we're probably at our 12th or 13th presentation. I hear some recurring themes. The first question I consistently hear is, hey, for Bond 2024, $175 million, well, how is that going to affect my property tax rate? And I'm happy to report that just like in Bond 2022, the city can deliver a $175 million program in Bond 2024 without increasing the property tax rate. The second question is, okay, $175 million, can the city really deliver? Yes, sir.
How are you able to do that?
Yes, sir. So, and we do have Heather here, who's our financial, she used to be our finance director, but let me give a good analogy, and Heather, tell me if my analogy is on point. But if you look at it, the city has a credit rating just like you have a credit rating. We also maintain credit just like a person maintains credit. And as you pay down on that credit, just like if you're paying down on a credit card, you create a gap in the debt, and you can naturally utilize the credit card again. And since we have been maintaining good financial practices, maintaining good financial relationships with our bond counsel and with our financial advisors, we identified actually a lot more than $175 million that the city could borrow in order to deliver the bond. But in this instance, we thought that $175 million would be appropriate, and we could deliver it without increasing the property tax rate. All right. So then, not increasing the property tax rate, the second question that I consistently hear is, well, can the city deliver? And that's fair, because the city has maintained a history where you would see in 2008, 2010, where voters would approve bond projects, but you actually wouldn't see shovels hit the dirt 6, 7, 8 years later. And that's almost a broken promise to the public. So when the new leadership came aboard with the city approximately 5 years ago, we totally revamped the way that we were doing business and revamped the way that we're going to manage our bond programs.
So that vote that they took years ago, it went up to a certain year, and then that bond was going to be sunsetted.
Yes, sir.
That's what the vote had asked for. So now,
But that's the other issue. This is the bond. What you're referring to is the Type A sales tax, which Heather's going to talk to after this presentation. But the bonds don't have a sunset, or you're referring to the Type A sales tax.
well, no, I thought I read somewhere one portion of the bond would expire or sunset 2025, and another portion of it 2026. Am I correct?
That's the Type A sales tax. That's not the bond. The bonds don't. Yeah, it's two different programs. Yeah, that's the next presentation, sir. So with that understanding, oh, yes, sir.
Are you planning to fix all the streets the way that you did Cimarron, where, you filled in the potholes, but the roller coaster still exists?
Yes, sir. I'm happy to report that we're making great advances in reconstructing our streets. Is it going to happen quickly? No, but we are working to revamp the streets. The answer is yes. Just this year alone, we've improved 57 lane miles of residential street roadways across the city. As compared to 3 years ago, we was doing 12, 13. So we're making advances. It's not as fast as we want, but we're getting faster, and we are revamping our processes to address the streets so it's not lost on us.
From the school to Yorktown, yes, you shaved off the old macadam and then put down new macadam. I don't know exactly what you did from the school to the end of Cimarron towards the entrances of King's Crossing.
Are you talking about Creekside Elementary? You talking about Yorktown?
No,
going
I'm
to
talking
the village?
about, what the heck is it? Marina?
Okay. I could talk to you offline since that's not
Okay.
a bond project.
Yeah, that's
just
fine.
for everybody's
Yeah, no,
respect
that's
for
fine.
everybody. But I'll have to talk to you about it offline.
That's fine.
I'll
Thank you.
I'll be done with the presentation, then I'll be sitting on the side. We're talking
Okay.
about Cimarron.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So what was our total 2024 budget? Was it one point what billion?
1.5 billion.
1.5, and so we want to bond another 175 million on top of that?
That's correct.
Okay.
All right.
But that also includes bonds from prior years, so those are gonna be rolling off. So the 101.5 billion includes total projects, and so we'll have projects that are completed and then projects that come back on.
Additional questions? All right. So let's get a little bit more into the discussion regarding what's in Bond 2024. Now, please note that for the sake of time, I'm talking about District 4 specific projects. If we have enough time, then we'll go citywide. But again, if we're not able to get to citywide, which I doubt, please feel free to review all the projects on Bond 2024 that's being proposed at cctexas.com/Bond 2024. For District 4, what we're looking at is doing the construction of Holly Road from Enos Jocelyn to Paul Jones. Please note, in keeping with new business practices, the design for Holly Road was in Bond 2022. So now we're back before the public. The design is complete, the construction documents are done. Now we're coming to the public with a request, a shovel-ready project to go ahead and reconstruct Holly Road. In addition, we're asking for $3 million to do the engineering design for Graham Road, $3.7 million to renovate a network cluster in the Terra subdivision, and $1 million to complete the JFK Causeway project. Now, when we talk about the JFK Causeway project, that's the commercial corridor that's under the JFK Causeway, where it has Snoopy's and the boat ramp. As you all know, that we have a lot of businesses down there, but if you go down there, you'll notice that the surface roads are terrible, the drainage is terrible, lack of lighting, and so we decided that we're going to go ahead and get down into that corridor, renovate it, and give that corridor the care that it needs, and it's going to take that $1 million to complete that project.
So nothing on the actual lot?
Yes.
Other than the cost?
Yes. Oh, yes, and we'll go into that.
Are you saying that if the voters do not vote for this new reauthorization, whatever, okay, that project will not get done?
No, sir. Again, the reauthorization is under the Type A sales tax. This is the bond, and if the bond was not approved.
Why do they call it 2024 bond?
Because it's a bond program for 2024. Usually the city does a bond every 2 years, so we have bond 2022 that was approved, and we're currently implementing those projects, and we're getting geared up for bond 2024.
That's confusing.
Yes, sir.
To answer your question, yes, if the voters do not approve the 2024 bond, then these projects would not get done.
That was my question.
Yes.
You're saying that the area, I guess, that the island's been promised is gonna get worked on by TxDOT or the city or whoever, would not get worked on by the city if the people don't vote for this bond, the 2024 bond, right?
What we're saying is that maybe one day it would, but right now we need the funding, and the funding we're requesting it in the form of a bond project.
Yeah, we got a few $1 million in the regular city budget also that we can use, but
Well, yes, sir. But
Yeah,
as
this is
you're
something- this is
fully
new.
aware, sir, the city is always going to have more needs than there is money, and so that's why we're coming to the voters with a request for more funding so we can
I
provide that
understand.
quality of life.
Basically, the reauthorization, as the city calls it, is a new tax, basically.
Again, that's a different. That's the next presentation. This is the bond. This isn't the Type A sales tax. Okay, so moving along to parks. What we're making a recommendation is $5 million for the Commodore's parks. That is a Padre Island Park. As everybody knows, that park has grown empty. Right there is currently a storage facility for equipment, and broken basketball hoop, and a bench. And we don't think that Padre Island is deserving of a facility like that. So now we've been working closely with Councilman Suckley, and we're working on, with a request for $5 million, is going to basically be the seed money to renovate that park and bring that park into modern 2024. In addition, we're asking for $2 million for the building of softball fields on Perry Place, and $1 million to design a boat ramp for Dimmitt Pier. Yes, ma'am.
So for the Commodore's park improvements, I see nothing for the children. Like, we really don't care about a shallow bird pond or birding pergola. You can see birds everywhere. We are the birdiest area. I see, okay, the playground. That's it.
And do
Yeah,
note,
that's
and
all.
do note, this is seed money for the first phase of Commodore's Park. Commodore's Park does have a master plan that you all have been working on. That also is including more and more amenities that includes.
How long does phase one last?
I'm not sure.
So we're looking at, so what, if the 5 million comes through as approved on the bond, then we are looking to work through the TERS to allocate additional funding and be able to take the park all the way through 1A, 1B, and 2, which would include all of these amenities in addition to the swimming pool and the gym.
And the timeline?
And so we're hoping to have that, so depending on where, so we're doing design, we have, design is fully funded to get it all the way through phase 2. And then we will see if this passes, and then we'll need to see what the additional is. So it would be within the next, would start after design. So hopefully starting on this within the next 12 to 18 months, and then hope to take it all the way through phase number 2, over the next 2 to 3 years, depending on the construction schedules. So it would be in the near future.
Does the skate park being added in there, is it in a phase 3 situation, or is it?
So right now, the skate park is in phase, basically a future phase. We have the conceptual plan that includes where the skate park could go, but it depends on, as we get through design, to look to see what that cost is, and then look to see what we have available in the TERS to be able to increase that budget.
Heather, I do have a question. And I know I've seen these presentations and heard about the funds for it, but I'm still not completely clear. So the 1 million from 2022
Yes.
that went towards design of Commodore's Park, correct? That's already been done?
Yep.
No, okay. And then the additional 400,000 that the TERS approved in May.
Yes.
The TERS board approved in May is on top of that million. Is that in addition to or part of the 5 million?
That is in addition to.
Addition to, okay. So I am the skate park advocate, so I'm here to represent. You know, I guess my question is, and going back to what Kim said, you know, an immediate amenity for kids of all ages and people of all ages. I know you've got your pickleball court there, but something like that, in a lot of research that we have done, I know Guth Park maybe cost $585,000 all in. Is that kind of correct? West
Guth.
Guth, I'm sorry. Okay, so, and that's a 12,000 square foot skate park, right? So if you estimate only, about 400,000 for one half that size, turnkey design and construction, can that not be put up further? Because 3B sounds like we've got to go through more, you know, bond votes and everything like that. And can it not be moved up? You know, I know we were late to the game, as I've discussed with Dan and at City Council. I know the group of us were late to the game in being part of that initial survey. You know, with 900 signatures now on our electronic petition we've done, and with a lot of support here on the island for it, is it not possible to move that up, you know, in any form or fashion?
So you and I have talked about this multiple times.
But I'm here with everybody else, and
I
I'm here at
understand
an
that.
official community
And
input meeting.
I understand that. And so to that point, we started this process now 18 months ago on Commodore's Park. Greg Smith and I actually started it in November of 2022, talking to folks and starting this process. And so the city was very intentional about the process that we went through to make sure that we had plenty of community engagement. 2 of those meetings were actually here in this same exact room over time.
We didn't have a big presence there for that meeting.
Why was that?
A lot of people, a lot of families out here on the island that have the youth that would utilize something like this, they don't know about it. They're not on the city Facebook page. They're not on different things, and they,
So,
you know,
To that point, we also sent out the survey to 1,100, almost 1,200 people that responded that weren't here. So we took that data again, and we've crafted where we've gotten to now after 18 months. So I understand
Well,
that
I'm not
there's,
sure, so today, with what you sent out, where this would be, you actually put Seashore Learning Center, which makes us feel kind of like you don't know.
Seashore Learning Middle Academy, I think they put
We
on
are
there.
not, we are Seashore Middle Academy.
So
Um,
we apologize for
so-
that. The city apologizes for that, Kim, the misrepresentation by putting learning in there.
Okay, can you understand how that makes us feel that we're not even known? We're not even, these charter schools have been here, that charter school's been here for decades. This one's been here, I think, 13, 14, Alex? Yep. So, I mean, the fact that we can't even get that right, it makes us feel unheard, unwanted. I'm just saying.
Well, this park, correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, but the estimated costs that we have identified so far, Kim, for just the first 3 phases, before we even talk about the skate park addition, is over $20 million the city's looking at investing in Commodore's Park. So I think they hear you, they see you, to the point of Greg Smith and myself. I wasn't even on council at that point when I started meeting with Greg to take the handoff and try and run with this and try and get it done as expeditiously as possible for the community. So I understand where y'all are coming from. We've heard it. Like Heather said, we've already added it on the sheet to be a spot on the park. But do we go back to all the people that did participate in the engagement for 18 months and say, hey, we now have all these people that have come out after 18 months and want a skate park, but we're going to forget about the pool, the nature preserve, the pickleball courts, everything else that people were a part of the process for 18 months on. So that's what we
Absolutely
have to
not.
also
And
weigh.
I don't think any of our representation has suggested that. I'm simply asking, would it be possible to add to that?
And we
a
told you
phase
it
one.
was. I don't know about a phase one, because
That was
back
my-
to the
that's my question.
prioritization of the 1,100, almost 1,200 responses we had.
And I'm assuming
Skate
out
park
of that
was not in the top 5 of
I'm
those.
assuming out of that 1,100, you had some for community pool, which is awesome, some for pickleball, some for this, some for that, and now we have 900 that are in agreement that with our grassroots effort that a skate park could be instantly utilized, take the less time to be constructed, probably the less expensive to be constructed, the lowest maintenance, not needing water, not needing to be mowed. I mean, I looked at the budget of.
All of your comments
Yeah,
have been
just-
heard, and
just my
we've taken
point.
it into account. Yes, ma'am.
So at the parks, that does take us into public safety, and what we're requesting is $25 million to replace Fire Station 8 and number 10. The design was paid for in bond 2022, and again, now we're here with shovel-ready projects to go ahead replace those fire stations. In addition, we're asking for $5 million for the design to eventually replace Fire Station 9 and Fire Station 11, which we'd be looking at in bond 26. On the police side of the house, we're asking for $9 million to build out the substation in West Goose Park, $5 million to construct a substation in Far South, that'll be on the Del Mar campus in District 5, and $1 million to do the design for a police substation that will be constructed near La Palmera Mall. On the facility side of the house, we're requesting $2 million to design a standalone library and community center in District 5, and $1.25 million for maintenance and renovations of our historical homes in Heritage Park. And again, that's our rough proportionality matrix, where we're trying to ensure that there is equitable distribution of funding across council districts. And we have our stakeholder meeting schedule. This is our engagements through June, but do note that we do intend to continuously engage with our citizens and our stakeholders through November. So again, if you go to cctexas.com/bond 2024, this schedule is on the website and it's continuously updated. These are public meetings, and anybody is welcome to attend, and there's more opportunities to provide feedback on the bond. Yes. Yes, sir. ISAC was briefed on May 7th. That's correct. And then we did have the District 4 Town Hall on May 13th. And then the second one, that's correct. So with that being said, I don't have time to really go through the rest of the remaining city projects, but you can go to the website, and we're more than happy to answer any questions. I'll be in the back if anybody wants to talk about bond projects, or we could talk about Cimarron. All right, awesome. I'd now like to turn it over to my colleague, Heather Hurlbert, Assistant City Manager, City of Corpus Christi.
Thank you, Neiman. Okay, so now what we're going to be talking about, we're switching from bond, which is supported through property taxes, and now we're going to switch over to sales tax. And so we will be talking about that real fast. Nope, I don't think so. It's the one, oh wait, that was the one. There it is. There you go. Okay, where's the clicker? Okay, thanks. So one of the things I know that we did want to, before we go into the sales tax, I did want to just recap a little bit. We've talked a lot about a lot of different funding sources, and so looking at what has been invested with the island. So the TERS keeps getting talked about a lot. And so looking at what the TERS has invested into North Padre Island. And so right now we have almost $75 million worth of projects that are either going to be coming up or are in process or will be almost finished. So we have, are setting aside money each year to make sure the Packery Channel continues to be maintained properly. We've got the money for the North Padre Island seawall improvements, the affluent water line rehabilitation extension project that is along Whitecap Road. The Paper Streets project, which I know that's something that people were really interested in on trying to get some of those lots activated right now and building those paper streets. The incentives that are going to Lake Padre Island for some of their infrastructure, the public infrastructure. The incentives that are going to Whitecap Development for a lot of their public infrastructure. The Briscoe King Pavilion remodel and rehabilitation. The Whitecap and Gypsy Bridge scour protection, and then the $400,000 for the Commodore Park design. Yes, sir.
So, real quick, so when I first bought here 18 years ago, and it may just be my ignorance for not asking this question
Sure.
a lot earlier, I was told my property taxes living here on the island, a percentage of those was for Packery Channel maintenance. Is that not true?
That is, it depends on where you live. So.
I live right here on the island, on the
I
water, on a
understand.
canal.
I understand. So the TERS goes down Park Road 22 and then is on the east side of Packery Channel. Okay. So those properties that are within that primarily, at the time is primarily commercial properties, multifamily, and then along there's a slight corridor that goes along Park Road 22. Okay. So those are the properties that are within the tax increment financing zone, or the TERS. And so the growth of the TERS, the property taxes generated by that growth, 100% of that goes into the TERS. But if you are most of the residential areas, which are to the west or over on the other side, Laguna Madre side of Park Road 22, those are not in the TERS, and so your tax dollars go to the general operations of the city, goes to bond payments, goes to those type of things.
There is not a certain percentage of our property tax that's set aside just for Packery Channel maintenance.
That is from the TERS, so those.
No, I'm talking about those of us that live
No.
on the west side. Okay,
No.
so none of that.
No.
Okay.
None of that is. It is not set aside for that.
But the TERS monies are only spent within the TERS zone, am I correct?
Exactly. If
Okay,
it's
so
for
what benefit does it do us?
so
A
these.
homeowner, what benefit does it do us?
So it is maintaining Packery Channel. It is creating doing the paper streets that need to be formed. We've also
Within the TERS zones, which are
yes.
on the other side of Park Road 22.
It's Park Road 22 and
Yeah.
beyond. So part of the TERS money went into building the bridge on Park Road 22. It is also when you're looking forward for mobility projects, including building sidewalks, creating better mobility across the city, across the island, which that would benefit those even if you're not living in the TERS zone.
You're saying that TERS money can go outside of the TERS zones?
No, it would be within the TERS zones. It does, so actually Commodore's Park is actually outside the TERS zone, but because it benefits the TERS, we are able to take TERS money and invest it in Commodore's Park. So that is something that's not within the TERS zone, it's right outside the TERS zone, but it is receiving money through the TERS.
That's where the skate lady should go, right? To Isaac?
The ISAC doesn't control the TERS, the city controls the TERS. The ISAC advises on the TERS. Exactly. Yeah, the mobility projects. In addition, there's money set aside for the second cause, for costs related to the second causeway when that comes in. So the TERS is able to contribute to that too. So that's something that can benefit the island as a whole. In addition, we haven't started them, but there also are water and wastewater projects within the TERS that helps benefit redundant water lines, sewer lines, things like that, improvements to the water treatment plant. All that can be funded through the TERS. Yes, ma'am.
Is the TERS funded by all of the businesses on the island, though? I mean, where is that money coming from?
It is from property taxes. So it's not an additional tax. It is the property taxes that are already being paid. And what it is that When the TERS was funded over 20 years ago, we had a value. So say the land within the TERS was worth $1 million. So now say it's worth $15 million. The taxes that are generated by that growth between $1 and $15 million is collected not only from the city, but it's also collected from the Nueces County, and at the time it was Del Mar. They're not participating right now. And so it's from the set property tax rate. There's not an additional tax. It's what those people who live, or those property owners within the TERS already pay. And what happens is that property taxes goes into the TERS instead of going to the general operations of the city.
So the property taxes within the TERS, though, those are mostly commercial properties, correct?
A lot of them are.
So
and
they're
that
coming
was-
from our businesses then?
Yes.
Our businesses are paying for, like, paper streets and all of that. Is that correct? Or
The
not?
property, instead of going to you're not paying additional taxes, but the taxes you're paying in are going to be reinvested back within the TERS zone versus going and being reinvested back in general projects or general operations of the city.
There's still going to be a significant number of single-family homes in there. Because, for example, the White Cap is going to have 600 single-family homes. And White Cap development will have 600 single-family homes that will also contribute to the TERS dollars, and as well as Lake Padre has a segment that's going to have single-family homes.
And then it's also all the multifamily units and condos that are over on the, between Park Road 22 and the beach.
So if you own a home in the island, you pay property taxes,
Yes, just like everybody else in the city.
just like everybody else in the city.
Yes.
And that goes into the general fund, right? And that
Everywhere else,
That
but-
pays
yeah.
for the city to run, for road repairs, et cetera, correct?
Yes,
Okay. But the TERS money,
is reinvested back specifically here.
does any of it go to the general fund?
No, not from the
Is
TERS.
that fair?
That's a
Now,
question.
It's too late now, but, you know, before TERS, there was still development, buildings would still be built, am I correct?
That is correct, yes.
So, that's,
Yeah.
To your point, it's a huge benefit for the island, because all that stays here on Padre.
well, it depends on how you look at it, my friend.
No, absolutely. It depends on how you look at it. If you're an island resident and you want island investment, then it's an awesome tool. The rest of the city that doesn't have a tool like TERS number 2, they're probably thinking, wow, we wish we had that over here.
Yeah, I wish my block had TERS.
Heather, am I incorrect in thinking that some of the TERS is generated through tourism, hotel tax? Is that something different?
No, but the TERS are just property taxes.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
there is no sales tax, hotel occupancy tax, no other revenue goes into the TERS. It's just from the taxes generated for the growth increment from the TERS.
Awesome.
The TERS money is created,
No, the entire city doesn't benefit
Yes,
from the
they do
TERS.
because of tourism. So the better off we are out here with roads or construction, and the more we have out here, the tourism helps the whole city. No?
I mean,
Tourism
we
doesn't
have,
help the whole city?
it depends. I mean, for the sales tax revenue, yes. Hotel occupancy tax goes back into certain things that can be used for.
Short-term rental tax, I mean, there's
That's
a
hotel
lot.
occupancy tax, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yes, but I mean, we've got tourism and we have hotels across the city. It's not just on the island.
I would say it's greater on the island, but, okay.
Okay?
the TERS is funded by the differential growth between what the baseline tax valuation was and what the increase in tax valuations are as the growth occurs. So it's capturing the new growth in taxes. Pardon?
And keeping it basically here on the
Yeah,
island.
and reimbursing it.
So we have a TERS for,
Yes, within the TERS area. But does it help him or
Yeah.
me? No.
Yeah.
But that, we should be addressing that issue to Isaac, okay? Am I correct? Okay, not to her. But I mean, I'm just saying the TERS
Yeah. But,
is gravy to the builders and developers over there where I'm pointing, okay? Basically, that's what it is.
okay. Sure, yeah, we can have more discussions about the TERS, but I would recommend you talk to city council, not to ISAC. ISAC is not who does the TERS, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my question has several parts, and I'm trying to just learn some things here. Don't take any of this the wrong way, or take it how you want. I don't care. So last year, our property tax values and our property tax dollars funded the city just fine, right? And we accomplished what we needed to accomplish. I'm asking. We did, okay. So this year, everybody's property taxes pretty much went up 10%, the max rate.
Let me correct you real fast. We haven't set the property tax rate. Your appraisals went up.
But that's what I mean, the property tax
Okay, but those are
appraisals
they're two
went
different
up
things.
10%. You're exactly right.
They're two different things.
Two different things.
Yes.
So that in itself means the city's already going to get more money from us.
Not necessarily.
How-
Depends
why
on what
is
the,
that?
what, it depends on what the tax rate is set at.
Are you going to lower it?
So we have the last 2 years.
You have lowered it, or you've
Yes.
kept it the same?
No, the property tax rate has been lowered the last 2 years. So it went from 64 cents down to 62 cents.
Well, bless your
down
soul.
to 59 cents.
Hopefully you continue to do that. That was going to be my question.
Yeah.
So are we going to lower the property tax rate
We'll have to see.
to see if because everybody knows, everybody's having to tighten their belts, it seems like, except the city and the county. I'm
Well,
asking, this is my question. That if I'm wrong, correct me, Peter.
You know, what I do want to let you know is, so in the last 2 years, the values across the entire city, not just the island.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, oh, yeah,
Let me finish my statement. So it increased 12%.
But that's based off of a program that is written by the state, right? Am I
No,
correct?
let me, if I can just finish what I'm going to say, and then
Okay.
let me get your feedback. In the past 2 fiscal years, across the city, values went up 12%. The city doesn't set values, it's the independent New Oasis appraisal district. This year, value growth across the city is 2%. It was 12%. This year it's 2%. I've already notified the council, we're probably looking at reductions in the budget this year. There'll be very few things added in the budget. Inflation is much more than 2%. Cost for police and fire with our collective bargaining agreements is more than 2%. The cost for streets, for asphalt, is more than 2%. The cost for library services, the cost for skate parks, the cost for parks, more than 2%. So our revenues this year generally aren't keeping up with the cost for services in the city. So we're looking at probably not adding anything, and we'll be reducing the budget. So when we have less services, that's the result.
Well,
Yeah.
that's good. You should put that
Yeah.
out. I mean, because
We are putting it out.
I
That's
didn't
why I'm
know
here.
that.
That's why we're here tonight.
We
Yes,
need
sir.
to know these things.
That's why we're here tonight. You just know it. Now you know
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
That's why we ask the questions.
That's why we're here.
We gotta know.
Yes, sir. We're here for conversation, community
There's one other
engagement.
important thing that I very seldom stand up and take credit for something in the room, but I'm going to take credit for this one because I got it passed. And that is you're all going to get an additional 10% deduction on your homestead exemption. And if you're over 65 or disabled, you'll get an additional $50,000 exemption. So we got that passed through the council last year.
Well, I mean, it's great that you're going to lower the rate, but
Not the rate.
or whatever. You
The deduction that you get for your homestead exemption was 10%. It'll now be 20%.
That's good, but the amount of the check that I have to write this year is still almost $1,000 more than last year.
Yeah, just, right, so the taxing entities haven't set their tax rates, but on your tax bill, one important thing is the school districts, and we're not blaming anybody here, but that's 50% of your tax bill.
Right.
25% is the city, the other 25% is New Oasis County. So when you see that tax statement come in, remember there's numerous taxing entities, and the largest one, hands down across the county, is the school districts. Not complaining, we need schools and public education's great, but, so we're 25% of the tax bill, on your statement. Yes, sir.
We need to get the county out here talking to us too. Maybe you can,
So actually, the county reduced their property tax rate also.
yeah, we need to get them out here to beat up on a little bit, you know what I mean? I mean, everybody's got to tighten their belts right now, but, got to write $1,000 bigger check this year than last year.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not the city's fault, so,
Sure.
Yeah, where exactly is that funded? From a commercial, from a residential, from the geographic location?
Sure.
There's some confusion around that. Just
Okay.
want some clarity there.
So,
Thanks.
so the TERS zone it starts after the JFK Causeway in a little bit. So it starts there at Park Road 22. It goes down, it encompasses all of Whitecap development, the new Whitecap development. And then it goes down to almost Bob Hall Pier, I believe. Then it drops down, it goes back along the coastline, kind of comes back up, and then comes back up to Park Road 22. So it's primarily the area between Park Road 22 and the beach, the shoreline, that whole area in there. There are a couple of residential areas that were excluded whenever the TERS was formed. And then now at the time it was the Schlitterbahn area, but now it's all of Whitecap. So it's all of Whitecap, and then it's all of along Park Road 22. So it is all property owners. It doesn't matter if you're commercial or residential, anybody who pays property taxes, so property owners that are within the zone, their property taxes as of right now is 100% of their property taxes. Instead of going into the general fund for general operations, they go into the TERS, and it can be used in the TERS zone. We have what's called a project and financing plan, which lays out everything it can be used for. Right now, the money is able to be used for infrastructure projects. It's able to be used for park improvements. It's been able to be used for facility improvements. We have money earmarked, or one of the programs is for a future causeway, for wastewater infrastructure improvements. So it's primarily, and then we have the developer improvements, which both Whitecap and Lake Padre are receiving reimbursements for public infrastructure. So they're putting in walkways, they're putting in bridges, putting in hike and bike trails, things like that. So things that are open to the public or are a public amenity. The TERS is not reimbursing either one of those developers for roads, for their landscaping, for houses, any of that infrastructure, any type of vertical infrastructure. It is all specific projects that will benefit the public or are open to the public.
Is that money available to be used for PIPOA related lands, like for example Gypsy Park and the maintenance of those different parks? Is that money available for that?
So we don't know. So primarily it's for infrastructure. It's not usually used for ongoing maintenance except for the Packery Channel, because the original TERS was for the construction of Packery Channel. That's what the first 20 years of the TERS was focused on, was the construction of Packery Channel. But we currently right now is not being used for any type of park maintenance. Now for the parks, it depends on where the park is. So like I mentioned, Commodore's Park is not within the TERS, but it is adjacent to the TERS, and it's for the benefit of the TERS. Okay. On those other parks, we'd have to look to see what the proximity is, what type of improvements, but it would not, we don't normally, like I said, use it for type of maintenance. It would be moved for improvements or infrastructure.
Okay. Last question is,
Sure.
on the person's appraisal, I don't know, it's not even an appraisal bill right now, but it's
exactly, an estimated, it's the preliminary values.
What is the line item on that?
So what the appraisal district does is that they take the appraisal and they put it up against what the tax rate was last year. And so the city has not set a tax rate, the school districts haven't set a tax rate, nor the county. None of the taxing entities have set a tax rate, and they will not set a tax rate until September. So based off of the preliminary estimates, they apply what was last year's tax rate. I don't think the preliminary estimates are even updated for the additional homestead exemption yet. They probably still reflect the 10%, not the 20%. But you will not know what your true tax bill is until you receive your tax bill statement on October the 1st.
Okay, and when you get that, the line item is actually TERS on there?
No, to the property owners, they don't know where it doesn't indicate anything different.
What is that district on? What is that entity that's on the actual form? What is it called though? That somebody could allocate and say, okay, that's the money that goes towards TERS.
It doesn't, because it comes to the city, and then the city allocates that over to the TERS. The county pays us a check basically whenever the property taxes come in from them. That goes into the TERS. So it is not your tax bill is agnostic to whether or not you are in a TERS or not in a TERS. To the property owner, it's just your property taxes.
Okay. So, and this is going to be controversial, I'm going to ask. So it's possible with the result that you just mentioned, that 2% has been the increase only, that rate actually could have an increase, not a decrease this year, in order to be able to fund projects correctly throughout the city.
There is that possibility. That's up to city council to set that tax rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, just some other investments on the island, including the Park Road 22, the which is also the Don Patricio Bridge. Sorry, that is on there twice. Packery Channel improvements. So this was the actual restoration and the dredging of Packery Channel and the beach nourishment, the JFK Causeway improvements, and then we are looking to see what that that cost is for that second causeway. And yeah, I think that was on the other slides, the Briscoe King Pavilion too. So let's get to sales tax. So we're going to talk a little bit about local sales tax, talk about the type A sales tax, which is what is being reauthorized, looking to what it's being used for and what the baseline use for it going forward is. So local sales tax. So the state of Texas allows a maximum tax rate of 8.25 cents. 6.25 cents of that sales tax goes directly to the state for their general operations, and 2% can be used for local purposes. So the 2 cents for the local purposes is divided up 6 different ways. So a half a cent goes for the operations of the Regional Transit Authority, so they receive half a cent. The city operations receive 1 cent for the ongoing operations of the city. The type A for improvements to the downtown seawall receives 1/8 of a cent. The multipurpose arena, type A, receives 1/8 of a cent. Type B, which is for economic development, affordable housing, and streets, receives 1/8 of a cent. And then the Corpus Christi Crime Control District receives 1/8 of a cent. So from the 2 cents, you have 1 cent that goes to the city operations, half a cent that goes to transportation, and then the other 1/4 of a cent goes to the 4 different purposes there. So here's a representation of that, the 1 cent, the half of the cent, and then the other 1/4 of a cent. So back in 2000, so what is type A and type B sales tax? So type A and type B sales tax was allowed by the Development Corporation Act of 1979, and it allows cities to create economic development corporations. And so that's what our type A or type B is. They are economic development corporations. And what those monies are to be used for is for economic development, including quality of life, conventions, tourism, entertainment facilities, sports facilities, affordable housing, infrastructure, and then other projects that develop and expand businesses or retain primary jobs. So these funding cannot be used for residential streets, it cannot be used for residential areas, and it cannot be used for general city services. This is for over and above for economic development and support of that. So currently we have 2 projects that are funded through this type A sales tax. And so project number 1 was for the construction of the American Bank Center. So 20 years ago, voters approved, or 25 years ago, voters approved for 1/8 of a cent to go to the construction of the American Bank Center. And then the second, American Bank Center Arena. The second project was for improvements to the downtown seawall. So in the early 2000s, there was some needs for some major improvements to the downtown seawall, and so this money went to go fund that. So at the time, it was sufficient to be able to fund the debt service payments for those. The city issued debt, invested the money into the arena, and invested the money into the seawall. But that revenue has continued to grow. So right now, that revenue produces about $8.9 million annually. And so our debt service is about $3 million annually for each of those. And so the additional money has been invested back into that. It's been invested back into the arena, and it's been invested back into the seawall and those structures along the seawall. So we brought forward a proposition back in November to repurpose the sales tax. Instead of 2 1/8 cents, repurpose it as a 1/4 of a cent. The citizens did not agree with those projects, or were not in support of those projects we brought forward. So what we've done since then is we took those lessons learned, and we have been meeting with city manager, met with city council members, the staff. We have met with 60, 70 different stakeholders to understand what their ideas are for the sales tax. On February 27th, we held a workshop or a discussion with the city council on what they were looking at, and then we did some more discussions in May 8th. And so what we'll be talking about is what those baseline projects were. So what we're proposing is with one of the 1/8 cents is to use it for the American Bank Center complex. So it'd be used not only for the arena, but also for the convention center and Selena Auditorium. We are in needs of improvements, of upgrading, and so that is what it's proposed for. But it would not be used only for just that. It would also be used for other city-owned facilities within that C district, or the Sports, Entertainment, and Arts District, which includes the 3 museums, which are the Museum of Science and History, the Art Museum, and the Asian Cultures Museum, along with the Harbor Playhouse and the Water Gardens. And so all of those facilities are right here in this general area. It is one of a tourism area. It also is used by a lot of citizens. 70% of the users at the American Bank Center complex are citizens of Corpus Christi. So while it is used for tourism, there's a lot of local use of that facility also. So then with the other 1/8 cents is being proposed to continue using it for the downtown seawall, but also include other flood control structures, including the breakwater, the salt flat levee, the T and the L headland masses, and the flood control pumps to continue protecting the downtown area. But then also looking at citywide flood control and coastal resiliency projects that are across the city. That's something that we continue to have problems with, and just being by the fact of we are a coastal city, but it has inhibited growth in a lot of areas because of the continued flooding. And so these were the projects that were identified with working through Public Works and looking at their 10-year master plan. These were the projects that were identified to be, that would fit this criteria as an economic development tool, and that we continue to have flooding issues in. So ranging all the way from Cal Allen all the way down to Oso area. So FM 624, the Turkey Creek, North Beach Phase 2, Corpus Christi Bay, shore erosion mitigation and protection, the Clarkwood Ditch and Oso tributary, Williams Ditch, and then Oso Creek. So one thing to note is that we, just like we're doing right now for the Packery Channel within the TERS, we're saying an estimated $1.5 million is being set aside each year for the ongoing needs there. We would also do the same thing specifically for the seawall. So there would be an amount that would be set aside each year to make sure that the seawall has those annual items, the every 5-year items, the every 10-year items fully funded. And then the remainder would be able to be invested into these flood control projects.
Who was paying for the seawall in the past, for the maintenance?
The seawall fund, the sales tax.
The property owners there?
No, the seawall, no, the downtown seawall?
No, the one out here.
Okay, this isn't for the one out here, this is for the downtown seawall.
I understand that, but the question here, on the island, who pays for the maintenance of that
The
seawall?
property owners right now, it's privately owned.
Why can't the downtown property owners pay for it instead of the taxpayers?
Because there aren't property owners along the downtown seawall, that is a city asset.
Because there's a road in between.
Yeah, there's nobody that is all owned by the city, it's all city property.
Well, okay, never mind.
How are you guys along on the path of all the signatures needed to get in order for you to start doing things?
Well, last week or 10 days ago, we received a letter of support from the Gulfstream Council of Co-Owners. So that's the first board, and I think there were 1 or 2 other board meetings already scheduled for other condos to try and follow in suit. We were using that first letter that Gulfstream had prepared with their support as kind of a draft sample that we could use for the other boards. So it's moving along. We have not heard anybody in opposition or, resistant to the idea. So,
Very good.
Okay. So we estimate probably about $73 million will be set aside over the next 25 years to support that downtown seawall flood control structure. So here's just a representation of where those projects are. So they range all the way from up north here, all the way down across the city. So one of the other things we heard from the election back in November was that did not contain a defined term, which is not uncommon for sales tax. But we are proposing a 25-year term for both 1/8 cents. And so just an idea of what revenue we're looking at. So over 10 years, 1/8 cents could produce 95 million, 15 years, 146 million, and 25 years, 256 million. So then looking at the next steps, so where we are right now, actually it looks like this didn't get updated, but where we are right now is that we are into our June 25th, and actually this is going to be next week on the 18th. And so we will be presenting another presentation to City Council on the 18th, talking about trying to whittle down those uses so we can move forward to the election. We have the election in, we would call the election in August. The election would be in November. And so actually prior to that, August 13th, we would bring a final recommendation to City Council for approval. But one of the things we're continuing to do is continuing to meet with the public, just like meetings like this, to help educate and help, right now still getting input on what those proposed uses could be. And I think we are through with all of those. So that concludes my portion. So anybody have any questions?
Why 25 years? Why not 10?
So the reason we chose 25 years is so that we could bond against that. So that would give us several years to make sure we had properly designed projects and then be able to issue 20-year bonds. If we did 10 years, it would just be it would be cash flow. It would be cash funding each year, and especially on some of these drainage projects, the stormwater projects, they're big, and so it would. There's a time value of money, not only in issuing debt, but also across a 25-year period.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but let's say if 10, 15 years, now you got to come back to the taxpayers again and say, hey, we want up our sales tax by a 1/4%.
So remember, this is not an increase. This is already
No.
property
But
tax.
if this isn't authorized,
Yes,
my sales tax drops, correct?
yes.
Somebody else puts it on like the county. Yeah, somebody else will pick it up.
Yeah, because there are other taxing entities that are able to receive sales tax.
Politicians and taxes, they go hand in hand. Thank you.
Yeah.
And there's a max of 8.25.
Yeah, and so, something to think, I know we talked a little bit about tourism and stuff. So when you look at our sales tax collection, 20 to 30% of that sales tax is generated by people who are visiting, whether it's on the island, whether it's downtown. And so this enables us really to utilize part of that money that is being paid for by outside those who are utilizing our facilities to be able to help pay for them.
Ask Chicago how that's going for them.
I'm sorry?
Ask Chicago how that's going for them for their convention business at McCormick Place.
Okay. Yes, sure.
I own a piece of property, my husband and I, we own a piece of property on Rodfield where we live, and we also own a piece of property here at the condo. And so we pay we actually pay more taxes out here where we don't live, but our daughter-in-laws and kids, grandkids love it, so that's why we keep it. So it's important. So we represent both places. But as far as the city is concerned on the bond, I want to tell you that I appreciate the focus on the police and the fire. I think that's one of the things that we can all agree, regardless of what we say about it, is that we feel comfortable in our city, and that's very important. We feel safe when we go to bed at night, that if something happens at our house that we're going to be taken care of. It's important also that we have the fire ready to go with the hurricane, and that's very important. So, Councilman, I appreciate that too. The second thing that I will also say to you, and I want to preface this by saying I'm not speaking for Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, but I do serve on that committee. And so what I will say is personally, I'm excited about the tell me the word.
Proposition, just the proposed projects.
The proposed projects. Part of those are going to be parks. There's also going to be a lot of other good things. But more importantly, I would encourage you to know that about 3 years ago, there really wasn't, I didn't feel, a process, an organized process. If you wanted the council to put something on the agenda and get it passed, oh, hey, Mr. Klein, I didn't see you there, sorry, and pass it, there was no, it was just kind of helter-skelter. And so there is now a process in place, exactly like Councilman Suckley said. It may not be a perfect process, but we are part of that, as Cheryl is with ISAC, and I am with Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, where you come and you make a presentation, and then we give you ideas and thoughts, and then in our position, we go and visit with Robert and staff, and they're actually there. So the system is not perfect, but is way better than it was, say, 3 years ago. And so keep working with the system. The last thing that I will tell you is this. Because I used to be a mom being moved 10,000 different directions, and you're so busy running kids that you don't pay attention to what's going on with the city. But the city has now engaged in a text that comes directly from the city, and it tells you things like, I missed this meeting. I didn't know that there was this meeting. I was going back through my text, and boom, I saw it. And then also Cheryl called me and said, hey, there's a meeting. Excellent. It's at the bottom. So I'm the most untech person there is to say this, so somebody better help. But if you go down to the bottom of the Corpus Christi city page, down at the very bottom, there's a word there that says subscribe. Am I correct on this? I mean, I know that's how I got on it. And you punch it, and then you put your email or your phone number in there, and it texts you all the time about, now you'll get things like, we're having a basketball league, and we're having a bayfront, and but you'll also get texts like this. So as busy moms and grandmothers and realtors and those kinds of things, it'll be on your phone, which is where we are, and even though we're driving and carpooling, we'll get that. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, and we wanted to recognize Chief Wade is back there, so talking about our public safety. He's done a great job with the fire department.
I have a couple questions. One is, would you please explain again what a type B purpose is on the?
So the type A and type B is in support of economic development. It can be used for tourism. It can be used for convention facilities. It can be used for infrastructure. There's a whole list. It's by state statute. It sets out for the type A and type B. But it is a sales tax that is to be used specifically for economic development and those costs related to the expansion, retention of jobs, retaining of jobs, along with some of the specific infrastructure that it can be used for.
Okay, thank you. And also, you mentioned that each of the 1/8 cent produces approximately $8.9 million in revenue.
Yes.
How do you determine that the downtown seawall projects have brought revenue in? How is that determined? Are there parks where people buy tickets, or their parking facilities?
It's just the general sales tax. It's not specifically the sales tax that's generated
Oh, I
by the
see.
seawall. It's just the sales tax collection across the city. 1/8 cents generates about $8.9 million.
I see. Okay.
So it's not specifically
revenue from.
No, not revenue from the seawall.
Okay.
It is the general sales tax revenue.
All right, and then I noticed looking through the plan put out by the city that there are a lot of certificates of obligations for parks under the new Harbor Bridge and for library programs. Can those be moved from being certificates of obligation to a type A project? No?
No, those are two totally different funding sources. So type A, type B, like I said, is for economic development. That is a sales tax. Certificate of obligations are supported. They are a bond. There are a debt that is supported through property taxes.
Okay, so that would be a property tax.
Yes. Yeah, and so there are those things that we do look at. So one of the things on the bond program, the Texas State Aquarium is looking at improving some facilities and parking lots. And so during that discussion, we did say, you know what, that is a type B eligible. It's eligible to be utilized for sales tax. And so we are proposing to move it off of the bond, so it wouldn't be supported by property taxes, but it would be supported by sales tax.
So, well, I just wanted, I'm sorry, a clarification on that answer. I didn't understand. For instance, I understand the aquarium, but the parks that are being developed under the Harbor Bridge and
Yes.
some of the library, why can they not be moved off of bonds to taxes? Is that something that the council can take up and move over, or?
So, I mean, that's one of the things, I mean, I don't know that there's not, let's see, how do I say that? So type A and type B have very specific things they can be used for. So the Harbor Bridge projects are a partnership between TxDOT and the city. And so for those longer term investments in infrastructure, we normally will use property taxes or bonding because those have a longer life, and we utilize those, and it's for the general operations of the city. So parks type assets, you usually use bonds for that, or general operating.
In type A, like I said, type A is economic development. They would consider parks a contributor to economic development, bringing business and jobs to the city. So it's not a legal expense.
All right, I was just trying to figure out a way to reduce our debt in the city, I guess.
Sure.
I just wanted to add on to what Linda said, and because of Linda, I was made aware of the subscribe. I cannot speak tonight. I apologize. And you know, it's an awesome resource, and because obviously prior to that, I was not aware, and many friends and families were not aware because we weren't looking for it, right? And I appreciate everything the council and the city is doing, and it seems redundant with things like skate park, you know, and what the community members are pushing for. And we just appreciate, you know, that it was even put on the master plan for Commodore's Park. I think that, you know, we can look back a lot all we want, but I think the main thing is educating people in this process that Linda was talking about. And please know that's what, you know, we're trying to do. Dan did appoint me to ISAC, and I appreciate that. That's separate from skate park in my mind. You know, I know the true, you know, goals of ISAC and what our mission is there. You know, I'm a community person here today for a community involvement meeting, not an ISAC, you know, committee member. And I just wanted to make that point because there's lots of people like me who, like Linda said, we're just busy out here getting our kids to practice and this and that. And I think that y'all coming out here, and the more you can, the better. I spammed it to everybody I knew. You know, people travel, people have kids, this and that. Y'all get how it is. But we appreciate you being out here. And I think that, you know, just working together and teaching us on how that process is and how we can work together to support the things y'all are trying to get done too, so that we can have the things we want out here. You know, it's just to kind of recap my comments before, you know, community input meeting is community input, and a lot of us missed the boat, obviously, on the last one, so thank you.
So I echo those sentiments, but there's one glaring number that's the most embarrassing number. We can sit and point fingers at you guys all day long and drill you with numbers and everything, but the most embarrassing number of this entire presentation is 1,100 out of 330,000. That 1,100, if you weren't paying attention, is the number of people that responded to a survey. These guys do everything they can to continue to promote. They're so transparent. There's never been a single person, anyone here, that's never not responded to me when I've communicated with them or talked to them. So I think the finger needs to be pointed back at the community. Why are they not here? Why are they not showing up? Why do they not want their voices to be heard? I've heard every excuse from, oh, they don't care, to that rhetoric has got to stop. There's so many people that belong in these meetings and to learn about how all this stuff works. I'm just as much of a neophyte into most of this as everybody. But the fact of the matter is the finger needs to be pointed back at the community. And I hope that you guys will talk to your neighbors and get them to start showing up. Because just because they didn't see it on Facebook or otherwise, if you're paying attention, you'll be in the know, and then you'll be someone that can continue to promote and create the engagement that the city longingly wants from us all the time. So thank you all for being here and being available for that. I appreciate it very much.
So how was this meeting advertised? Where all was it? But I didn't know until 10 minutes before Debbie called me and said, hey, are you going tonight? And I'm like, well, I didn't even know it was going on. Yeah, I'm going. And so how did we get that word out? I hear you, but at the same time, you know me, I'm on every social media, I'm doing everything. And I didn't know about it, so there's the challenge
Well,
right there. I hear you,
So,
but now I
so
want you to hear me.
some of the places that I'm aware of is the city sends it out on their different channels. They do their graphics. They send it out not only for this meeting specific to tonight, but this meeting had been listed previously in other lists of the community engagement meetings. I personally sent it out to Padre Island neighbors, Padre Islanders, North Padre Island community, on my Facebook page, on my campaign Facebook page. I sent it out to every means that I have available to me where people have followed me or followed those sites over the years. So, and I did that multiple times. So.
I have to agree. I thank y'all very much for being here. I know I had a personal issue. I emailed Dan, and he emailed me back in 30 minutes about an elderly in my family. I don't know how to get past that. Those of us that have been here a long time, there is a trust issue. And all y'all can do is keep being transparent. That's all you can do. And so
You can sign up with the city and get notifications that they send out. That's where this meeting initially showed up.
right, and I did that, but I'm just saying, I do appreciate y'all being out here. Long timers have some trust issues, so maybe that's part of it. But when we do come out and can have these conversations, that is definitely helpful.
Can I add one more thing? Speaking with Councilman Suckley, we're gonna probably do separate meetings for District 4. You know, we have the non-island and then the island. So our next event will probably be before this, but for the budget community conversation that's coming up in about 6 weeks or so, we'll do a separate meeting just like this, just on the island, and then we'll do one on the main Flower Bluff area as well. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I believe in giving credit where credit's due. And I will say, Peter, Dan, Mike, anytime I've had a question, I mean, it's been snap of a finger. You guys have been right there answering, talking, no doubt. Way better than years ago. No doubt whatsoever. Kudos for that, guys. I will say that.
So I know we're kind of going over here, and I just want to answer Jack's question openly, all right? So many of us use these social platforms. And the problem with the social platforms is that there is algorithms that suppresses content constantly across the board. So just because you subscribe to some specific page, whether it's a Facebook page or Facebook group, I changed the cover photo on the group today related to this meeting. That cover photo was probably only seen by 5% of the entire audience of that group. So we have a restricted ability to communicate, even using social media, even using the city's website. If we're someone that wants to know what's going on, the city's website will have availability of this information. But when I put the task back on us, it's because the word of mouth of talking to each other and talking to our neighbors and engaging our community is how we elevate and bring people into the conversation. Expecting the news media or otherwise to be the voice to create the likelihood of people to show up it has to be back on us. Because in the end, if I were to go back in the numbers and say, you know what, take us 15 years ago before social media, what was the survey like with 280,000 people in the city? It was probably 200 people that answered the survey. Because so even with these social channels, there's more of an ability for us to communicate, but it's really back on us to talk to people. So when you hear something, don't assume that someone knows that this meeting exists. Send a message to a few people. Hey, did you go into this meeting tonight? That's all I want to share about that. And Jack, I take that responsibility for you not knowing. I would have assumed you knew.
Yeah. So speaking of surveys and participation, we have an ongoing survey right now for the sales tax reauthorization. And so I encourage everybody to pick up, there's a QR code or the sales tax, the address to the survey. Also, we've got information for the bond 2024 over here. So I encourage you to participate and give us your opinion. So.
And I gave this young lady here, and she was supposed to hand it to you guys, but specifically,